My sister Kara sent me a text message a few weeks ago documenting a conversation she'd just had with my nephew Brock, who's 4 years old and sitting right over there. And she was explaining to Brock what goes on at a commencement ceremony, why they were coming out all the way from Texas, and all that goes on, what we're doing here today. And she said that he scrunched up his nose and looked back at her and said, "Mommy, that doesn't sound like any fun. And don't you think it'd be better, Mommy, if instead of doing all of that, we pretended to be dinosaurs and we roared at each other?" And buddy, I think you're right. I think that would be more fun. And I tell you that story just because I want to temper your expectations. If you, like Brock, think that this is going to be boring, I want you to know I'm going to do the best I can with this speech, but there won't be any dinosaurs and there won't be any roaring. And before I begin in earnest, I want to acknowledge that much of what I have to say was born out of a conversation I had with Austin Watkins some weeks ago. If you know Austin, and most of you do, then you know that to be his friend is to benefit from his wisdom and his insight. You know that he is a loyal friend and his counsel is valuable. Austin helped me come to what I hope I can communicate to you today, so I want to thank him for doing what friends are supposed to do, make us better. If you're anything like me, you've spent most of this morning wondering, what in the world am I doing here? It's a little surreal, isn't it? They line us up in the field over here, they drape us in what feels like a circus tent, and they put a throw pillow on our heads. And we march in. I always knew that my time at Pepperdine would be limited. Of course, you come to a place like this expecting to leave, but even so, on this day, it's a little surreal. But if it's true that it really is time to go, then it's important for you and I to remember why we came here to begin with. We've spent 3 years in study, challenging ourselves, pushing ourselves and training ourselves, increasing our knowledge and improving our skills. If we look honestly at the last 3 years, and maybe if we ask our family members what they think, it's been 3 years of pretty selfish work. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because what I mean to say is that legal education demands of us all of our time, except for the little bit of time we set aside to watch Netflix. And it demands all of our concentration, except for that modicum of attention it takes to carry on a G-chat conversation. And legal education demands personal excellence and personal discipline, a commitment to high performance and personal achievement. It is, we know all too well, an exhausting and consuming personal experience. Personal experience. You see, right or wrong, these 3 years have been all about me. My study routine, my grades, my summer job, my subject, my brief, my resume. It falls to me, and only to me, to make sure that the work of law school gets done. And what I'm trying to say is that in doing what was asked of us, you and I have spent 3 years being necessarily self-centered. I've focused on my work and myself because that's what law school demanded of me. As much as I would have liked to take exams in a team, and as much as I would have liked your help on some of my briefs, law school is necessarily a solo venture. Even at a place as supportive and community-minded as Pepperdine, the only person responsible for my performance is me. But now, thank goodness, law school is over. And the game is changing. Because we've spent 3 years being trained to focus inward on our own accomplishment, but I stand here today, I stand on this platform to tell you that the time for that is over. From here on out, it falls to us to work not for our own benefit, but for the good and for the benefit of someone else. A client, a jurisdiction, a cause or an ideal, the people, even the other members of this profession. The great fundamental irony of legal education is that it requires you to work alone, tending to your own ambition and focusing on your own achievement, all in preparation for a career that is, at its very core, about service to others. We join this profession as counselors. It is and will be our solemn duty to represent the interests of others fiercely and zealously, to do right and to do good on behalf of another. And that's something that may be lost on much of the legal world. The allure of the corner office and the partnership track and the call of prestige and personal gain are seductive and ever-present. Many lawyers, I'm afraid, have forgotten altogether that the practice of law is not about the success of the practitioner. But you see, we have an advantage over most lawyers. We didn't go to any other law school where competition is so often supplanted by cutthroat one-upmanship. We came by grace to Pepperdine, the city on a hill. We benefit from the example of a faculty that cares for us not only as their students, and they do so genuinely and personally and selflessly, but they also care for the least of these as the objects of their work and their service. Those are our examples. Indeed, the important call to service is written into the very DNA of this institution. George Pepperdine, on the day of this university's founding in 1937, said that Pepperdine University would exist to help young men and women build a foundation of Christian character and faith which will survive the storms of life. And he also said that it would exist to prepare students for lives of usefulness. Mr. Pepperdine, it turns out, didn't endow this university to prepare us for lives of extravagance. He didn't endow the university to prepare students for lives of self-centered myopia or careers of ruthless personal gain, but usefulness and helpfulness and service to others. Our great commission, then, as new lawyers, is intimately tied to the founding ideals of this place. This law school, which Justice Sandra Day O'Connor came and said stands at the very forefront of the field of legal ethics, has prepared us for success in the most important sense. And I've watched it happen over 3 years. I've seen you use your summers to help children held in the remand homes of rural Uganda. I've seen you in India advocating the rights of women. I've seen you spend your spring break documenting human rights abuses against Karen refugees on the Thai-Burma border. I've watched you lend aid to prostitutes in Chiang Mai. I've seen you on Skid Row providing legal counsel to the homeless and the penniless. I've seen you at the Public Counsel Office in Compton and Public Defenders in Watts, in the Strauss Institute's mediation clinic and the activities of the International Justice Mission, the Palmer Center's microfinance programs, and the Public Interest Law Society. Now, we are who we are. We are law students, and we have our goals, and it would be disingenuous of us to look at those good works, and they are good, and deny that they benefited us in real ways. Because a summer in Uganda and a semester at public counsel makes for an interesting line on a resume, it at least makes for a good interview conversation. The challenge from this point on, you see, for the next 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years we spend in this profession is to continue in that vein of service and compassion when there is no benefit to be derived, but the good done on behalf of one who truly needs it done. And so, looking to the 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years we spend in this profession, I find that I am confident and encouraged because I've seen more of you than classroom performance and part-time service for credit. I've watched you rally around issues of social and global justice. I've watched you pray for each other in times of personal struggle. I've seen you open up your lives to our professors, many of whom, by the way, opened up their homes to share time with us, offered their time to lead Bible studies and share stories of encouragement from their own practice. I've watched you on Saturday mornings handing out sandwiches and information about immigrants' rights at the Malibu Labor Exchange. I've seen how you care for each other through stress and difficulty and loss. I've seen you clean up the beaches. I've seen you send medical supplies to disease-ridden lands and Christmas gifts to children who would otherwise go without. In fact, I've seen firsthand your generosity. A year ago, 3 days before final exams, my computer stopped turning on, and I lost every note I'd ever taken. And objectively, I was one person no longer in competition against any of you. I'd fallen right off the curve. But even so, you rushed to send me notes. My laptop died, and I went no more than 3 hours until I had class notes and outlines for every class I was enrolled in. You gave them to me against your own interests. So looking ahead then to our years in the legal profession, I find that I'm confident your commitment to service and the ultimate good of others is more than a line on your resume, and more than a stepping stone toward your own ambition. It lies deep within you at the very heart of who you are. The work of law school may be necessarily self-centered, but you You're not. The call to Christian service and compassion is in your DNA, just as it's in the DNA of this institution, and the legal profession needs that service from you. This country, our world, need that service from you. More service and care, more compassion, more of Christ and less of me. And if it comes to be that after 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years, when we're done in this profession, that justice is more accessible to the poor and quality representation is available to the underserved, that the law functions more reliably and more efficiently for those who need it most, that the rights of the people are more stable and the rights of the accused more secure, that ethical practice is the norm and servant leadership is the watchword of practicing attorneys everywhere. If, when we're done, in whatever corner of this profession we carve out for ourselves, the practice of law is nobler and more just and more effective, and if the attorney rejoins that class of civic leaders that the public perceives as working benevolently for the public good, that will be your legacy, a legacy of which you can be most proud. It'll be a part of the enduring legacy of this remarkable school. It'll be kingdom work. And I will be honored just to know you. I'll be proud to have studied alongside you. I'll be happy just to be your friend on Facebook. But mostly, I'll be grateful for your example and your lives. Lives of service and of purpose and of leadership. It falls now to us to serve. God bless you in your service. God be glorified in your practice. Godspeed in all you do. And now looking at last beyond ourselves. It's time to go. Study for the bar. And then go about doing the good work now set before us.